Growing tasty strawberries in my GreenStalk has been a dream that has kind of evaded me until now. Are things finally going to change? Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Tara and I am the proud owner of 14 GreenStalks as of today. And I've made a ton of videos because I love them so much. So check out my channel, my playlist. I think you will learn something from there. At least I hope you will. But there has been one thing that I have never been able to do as successfully as I wanted to, and that is grow tasty strawberries. Now, I've been growing strawberries in my green stalks for about 5 years now, and every year I learn something a little bit new, and I have grown some really nice looking strawberries in my green stalk, but they've kind of tasted meh, kind of watered down and not very sweet. So I've been picking up a lot of tips from a lot of different places, including from Susie, the head gardener, directly from her on what really works to grow strawberries successfully in the green stalk. And I'm going to be spilling the beans, sharing it all with you today. And I welcome any advice that you guys have for me as well. So let's go plant up some strawberries in my green stalks yet another time. We're going to plant them in my lemon green stalks. Okay, so I'm in a very compressed little corner of my garden right now. And the reason is because I had to move my lemon green stalks here. If you guys have been following my channel for a bit, you may remember my lemon green stalks. I have two of them, and I actually did a little side-by-side comparison between Miracle Grow organic potting mix versus my own DIY mix with some interesting results. I'll put a link over here if you want to go check it out. But I had to move them here because this space is actually within a garden enclosure that my son and my husband built for me earlier this year. I've got 6 very large raised beds here, and I completely was not able to do anything with them. They were left fallow because I have squirrels, you guys. Squirrels eat everything that's edible, and they love my green stalks. They love climbing up it, and they love digging, bearing their acorns, doing all kinds of stuff. And I've never been able to grow strawberries successfully, mainly because of them, but there's a bunch of other reasons as well. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. I'll show you what I've got growing in here and what we're going to do with them, as well as how I'm going to plant up my strawberries, and we'll talk about some of the other issues that I've been having. All right, I don't usually film from this part of my garden because it's kind of a messy space, but hey, we're keeping it real here in the Green Love channel, right? So let me show you what I've got planted up here. Coleus, you guys. Grow coleus in the green stalk if you haven't already. You won't be sorry. Coleus comes, it's mainly for the foliage, but oh my gosh, they come in such varieties and such colors. You will never miss the flowers. You will grow more and more once you've grown this once. And in my gardening zone, unfortunately, even though I'm zone 9B and it is pretty warm, mild winters, we do have a few frost nights and these things will die off in the frost. So I take cuttings, they root very easily. You can actually leave them in water all winter long on your kitchen counter or something. Just change the water once every 2 weeks or so, and they will last you and you can replant them again the following season. A few other plants that I actually started growing for the first time, and I'm going to grow every year, every season, every possible time. Vinca, you guys. I love Vinca. Funny story. When I grew up in India, these actually, my mother used to call them graveyard flowers because these grew wild in the cemeteries. So that's one of the reasons I avoided growing Vinca, but gosh, it is such a hardy plant and it produces these gorgeous blooms, and I've gotten over my cemetery aversion. Halloween is behind us, right? Anyway, a few other things I planted. Society garlic. I don't know why I planted it. I guess I just had extra plants, but this has got to go into a different part of my garden. This is creeping verbena, and if you haven't grown creeping verbena, that's another must-have flower for your green stalk. They bloom in my gardening zone from spring all the way through a large part of summer, and they are just covered in beautiful blossoms, teeny tiny little blossoms, different colors. So yeah, grow creeping verbena. Now see, these are all perennials, so I'm actually not going to throw these plants away. I'm going to dig them all out of the green stalk and I'm going to plant it in a different part of my garden. I'm going to dedicate this tower as well as the other lemon one that I've got at the other end there. I'm going to dedicate them to strawberries. I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to actually see whether strawberries and strawberries alone can do well rather than have to compete with all kinds of other things. And then this is something I'm growing for the first time. It's called painted daisies. They're very pretty daisies. They've got like this multicolor kind of thing, just gorgeous. So I'm going to grow them as well. So these are also perennials, by the way, so I can dig them up and plant them somewhere else. And I'm looking at these. You guys, I've got aphids. I hate aphids. And actually that brings me to the next issue that I've got with growing strawberries in the GreenStalk. Yep, aphids are a huge nuisance in my GreenStalk, and particularly for my strawberries. The problem with strawberries, usually I use just a hose and kind of wash them down, but with strawberries, they kind of really get in there. They get into the crown, they get into the soil. And you know what's even worse is I always have ants, and ants protect aphids. Did you know that, you guys? If you've got aphids and ants on any plant, you're dead in the water. That plant is a goner because the ants will prevent any of the beneficial insects like the braconid wasp or any other insect, that ladybugs, that come and try to eat aphids. These darn ants will prevent them. And I have done all kinds of things. I've used a toothbrush to regularly clean it. I've used harsh water spray. I've used borax to keep the ants out, borax solution. Nothing seems to be working. So this year I'm going to stay on top of it if I get aphids and see whether I can keep them out of my strawberries, because once they're there, the strawberry plants just don't grow, just don't thrive, and you might as well forget about it. Yes, I'm just going to be digging out each of these and putting them in different parts of my garden right away. I'm going to just sort of dig a hole in the ground here and there and put these in. Coleus is not going to last, like I said, through the winter, so I'm going to have to move that into my greenhouse. But other than that, creeping verbena. I don't know about this guy. This guy is supposed to be a perennial, but I think it actually does not like those frosty nights, so they may not survive. But you guys, they produce tons and tons of seeds. And so they are going to self-seed. I've actually already got tons of them growing everywhere. They look like little papaya seedlings. So I'm going to go ahead and empty out all these plants from here, and then let's come back and I'll show you how I'm going to amend it and how I'm going to plant up my strawberries, and we talk about some more issues that I've had with strawberries in the past. Meanwhile, you guys, aphids, if you've got a solution, I think that's the only one that I really don't know how to tackle is aphids. I think I've tried everything in the book. So if there's anything that's not in the book, let me know. When I say the book, I mean, all of the websites out there. I've tried all the hacks and DIYs, and I've bought things. Everything doesn't work for aphids. Aphids actually are interesting because they are actually born pregnant. Did you know that gross fact? Yeah. And they have this survival thing. They absolutely need to work on survival because they are the prey of so many different creatures. So ants have the symbiotic relationship with them because they produce this honeydew that ants like to eat. And so ants farm them, they protect them, they quarantine off the diseased aphids. It's a fascinating relationship, you guys. So ants and aphids is bad news. So I unstacked them because it was just so much easier to remove the plants without the tiers sitting one on top of the other. So the way that I'm going to amend this, now I typically like to unstack completely and restack my GreenStalks once a year. This is only about 6 months old, so I'm going to wait a while before I do that. The reason I do that, by the way, is because I get black widows and all kinds of creepy crawlies. I garden year round, so my green stalks are really worked very hard. Roots start to grow into the gray saucers. Yeah, black widows take up residence. So once a year, I like to do a complete refresh. And when I say refresh, all I'm doing is I'm unstacking them, cleaning them out a little bit, cleaning those gray saucers, and then I sometimes decide to sift out the soil, amend it, and then replace it all. Sometimes I just leave the roots in there. They actually decompose over time. But yeah, that's all I do basically. And the 3-tier I'm finding is very easy to handle compared to the 5-tier. I'm just really liking the 4-tier and under size. I don't know, but you guys, do you like the taller green stalks, or do you prefer them to be a little bit shorter? I'm not that short. I'm 5'5", but I still like 4 tiers or less. Anyway, so one of the things that I like to do is fill it up all the way to the tippy top. Now, with strawberries particularly, you don't want the soil to be too sort of fluffy, because what happens over time is it compresses. That's just the nature of the beast. And with other plants, you can backfill with soil. With strawberries, you can't, because if you cover the crown of a strawberry when you plant it, it is not going to survive. So you do not want to cover up the strawberry crown. You want to put it all the way on the top so that only the roots are buried. So that's why you want to fill this up to the top and actually want to push it down. That's why I'm not actually fluffing up the soil, because I don't want it to compress down. I want it to stay as is, and then I'm going to put more soil on the top. I hope that all makes sense. So speaking of amending the soil, you want to put some slow release fertilizer. Now I'm using this. This is not exactly my favorite fertilizer. I usually like the Espoma Plant Tone or Garden Tone, but I was out. So I got this from Costco, and it's okay. I mean, the main thing that it's got is alfalfa meal, which is actually a high nitrogen source, as well as it contains some sort of enzymatic growth hormone or something that helps plants grow better, apparently. So I like alfalfa meal, but I'd rather get that in bulk at the feed store. And then this has got some other things like kelp and fish meal and things like that. So going to be using this, but remember that strawberries do require they're very heavy feeders, especially when they're doing that vigorous green growth early in the season. So nitrogen particularly is extremely important, and alfalfa meal is rich in nitrogen. So are some of the other things that are in here, fish and kelp meal, etc. So this actually may be pretty good for strawberries. So all you want to do is scratch in a couple of handfuls. You want to get it in there so that the strawberry roots can grow into it. So mix it in to the top, maybe 3-4 inches. And then as you water, if you're going to do pocket watering, which will actually bring me to my next topic, is irrigation, is when you water them, the thing actually gets absorbed into the soil, all the various nutrients. And if you've got worm castings, definitely amend with that as well. Which reminds me, I got to go get some worm castings. So I don't know why I keep feeling the need to say, pardon my messy setup over here, but these are my worm bin totes. And yeah, I make my own worm castings. I feed them kitchen scraps. It's absolutely fabulous. If you are not worm casting, you're missing out. And one of the things that people always complain about, oh, you know, it's very difficult to separate the worms from the castings, but I have a trick to do that. Oh, look at my worm castings. Okay, so this bucket over here, you guys, so the way that it works, look at all my worms. Let me actually bring you up close and show you. Yeah, worms do not like sunshine on their faces, so they will duck down. They're very shy. But the way that I do it is, yeah, I always keep them covered. Look at all these worms, you guys. Is I feed on that side, and I have finished castings on this side. So what I do is I scoop out the castings from the bottom. That's where it usually forms. I put it in this bucket. This bucket has a bunch of holes in it on the side. And so what happens is the worms, they're smelling the delicious food on that side. And so they migrate out of this bucket into that, and they leave nice worm castings over here. Look at these beautiful finished worm castings. The only problem is they make my nice new gloves messy. Now a little goes a long way. So I'm going to take some of this and go and mix it in with the soil in my GreenStalk. And if there are some worms in it, that's all good. They're going to help continue to make fertilizer in my green stalks. Just a few handfuls, maybe 2 or 3 per tier. This, you guys, I can't tell you how nutrient dense this is. And when you feed your plants nutrient dense soil, you know that that nutrient is going into your food as well, and your food is just so much healthier than what you can get in the grocery store. I wish more people enjoyed growing their own food and realized the importance and the value of making your own compost and feeding that to your plants. Anyway, someday everyone will be on our camp, right? The gardener camp. Let's see. So let me go get you my strawberries and let's talk a little bit about strawberry varieties. So these are my strawberries. I got them from a neighbor who had tons of runners growing all over the place. Delicious strawberries. They are Albions. And I actually asked a farmer at a farmer's market what variety grows well in California, and they said that they sell mostly Albions. So I'm guessing that this is going to do well. This is what I'm talking about. Aphids getting over here, ants getting over here, and you can't really get them out when they're in the GreenStalk. They're a little bit easier when they're in containers like this, but when they're deep down in the GreenStalk, it's really, really hard. So when it comes to strawberries, variety does matter. Some varieties are sweeter than others, and a lot of people have suggested that I get Seascape strawberries. Apparently they do really well. I got Seascape. Yeah, the strawberries were not sweet. So it's not just the variety, but it's also the environment that you give them. And I'm going to stick with the tried and true this time. I'm going to stick with Albion and see what happens. Now, if you do have some strawberry varieties that you'd like to recommend to me, please do so, particularly if you live in my climate. This is the Bay Area, Zone 9B, and you've had very high success with growing sweet strawberries, then definitely let me know in the comments below. I am just willing to try anything at this point. Now, strawberry roots actually grow really strong and deep, and they produce the larger as well as the more productive amount of fruit the second year and maybe even the third year. So I'm going to have to figure out how I can keep this GreenStalk going for a couple of years at least without having to restack it. And which also means I've got to plant my strawberry all the way at the top because I know that the soil is going to sink. So you want to make sure that you do not plant anything that is going to cover this crown. I'm going to backfill around it because in case the soil settles, now is my opportunity to plant it as high up as possible. I'm also going to stack this because I think it's going to be harder to stack once I've got it planted up. So I've rinsed these out. You want to make sure that the little holes do not get clogged. Make a little bit of a depression around where it's going to sit. And I do that. And then make sure that you align these holes with the petals of the GreenStalk. Looking good. Let me stack the next level up. You want to make sure that when you stack it, there's no dirt in the feet. So I actually like to depress this a little bit around so that the feet don't get clogged up with dirt. The last thing I want is an unstable or slanted GreenStalk. There we go. Yeah, make sure that with every level, you make sure that it's all well assembled, because if it's even slightly kind of aligned sideways as you go higher and higher up, it's going to do this. So yeah, let's go ahead and plant up these strawberries. I'm already seeing aphids, you guys. So I'm going to have to come out with the neem spray. I'm going to have to start my pest management routine right away. We're kind of lucky in the Bay Area, and in warmer climates, we can actually just leave our strawberries outside. I know a lot of you who live in colder climates have to like cover it up with straw and move it closer to your house, or maybe even move it into your garage or something like that because it's too cold to grow outside. But for us, they won't grow very fast during winter, but they will survive. So, and then come spring, they just start growing like crazy. You only want to plant one plant per pocket. Okay, I'm going to finish planting this planter up, and when we come back, I'm going to share with you a tip that I got from Susie, the head gardener, that I think is probably going to be the biggest and best thing that I'm going to be doing different this year with these strawberries. By the way, folks, if you are enjoying this video, please do give it a big thumbs up and comment below, because that actually will tell the YouTube algorithm to show you more of my videos, and it also helps spread the video, so I really appreciate that. I am also a GreenStalk affiliate, which means I get early access to beautiful new colors like this snow color. Don't you love how it pairs up so beautifully with the glacier blue? And it's a neutral color, so you can actually put it with any color combination and it's going to look great. So that's coming soon. And I sure appreciate it if you use my affiliate link in the description when you purchase any GreenStalk products. That link will actually automatically give you $10 off your purchase of $75 or greater. So I really appreciate your support for my channel by using my link. Thank you so much. Let's go back to planting strawberries now. And then very important when you've got a fresh planting of anything is to do what my mother used to say, give it some uirutani. And uirutani in our language, Tamil, means water of life. So yeah, you gotta settle those roots in and get them off to a great start. And speaking of watering and irrigation, that's also one thing that I'm going to be doing different. Remember how I said that my strawberries taste kind of watery? Maybe it's because I was giving them too much water. So I'm not going to be setting this up on irrigation. I'm going to be watering just from the top and from the pockets as needed, only when the soil kind of starts to dry out, especially when they're fruiting. I won't worry too much when they are producing lots of leaves, but when they start to fruit, I am going to cut down the watering drastically. Okay, done watering, and I'm now going to talk about Susie's tip. But before I do that, one little clarification. When I talked about Uiratani, or water of life, I called it our language, which might make you think that that's the language that I spoke growing up, which is Tamil. It's an Indian language. But for my friends that are watching, they know I didn't speak Tamil growing up. In fact, I'm really bad at speaking Tamil. I actually spoke English growing up. So yeah, just a clarification, you guys. But I can speak Tamil okay when I go to my hometown in India and argue with the auto rickshaw drivers. I can manage pretty well. Anyway, speaking of Susie's tip, which is the last and probably the best tip, or at least the biggest change that I'm going to be making this year, and that is location. As you know, I moved this over here, but this also happens to be where I get a lot of afternoon sun. So sunshine was what Susie says is going to make a big difference to the sweetness of strawberries, and it kind of makes sense. Now, I do live in the Bay Area, and as the weather warms up in late spring, early summer, the sun's going to beat down pretty hard over here, so I might want to consider some shade. But during late winter, early spring, it's going to be absolutely wonderful to have that sunshine coming over the back wall. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Obviously, this is a learning video, and I want your help and tips as well on what your experience has been growing strawberries in the GreenStalk and what tips you have for me. Anyway, until next time, folks, live green and love your greens.